Ever get the feeling when you look up at the moon, like, there's got to be something more going on up there?
Oh, it's like this quiet presence. Right.
Exactly. And for people who practice Wicca, that feeling, it's like a core part of their whole belief system.
It's true. The moon is way more than just, a rock in space for them. It's a source of like this potent energy, a guide, a powerful, powerful symbol of
The divine feminine.
exactly the divine feminine.
And that's where I think Crystal Moon's book, Wicca Moon Magic, comes in perfectly,
Yeah,
right?
that's a perfect guide.
Yeah, it's like our own little handbook for this deep dive into like this whole other layer of how the moon affects us.
It really digs deep into how Wiccans weave the moon's cycles into, well, everything really, ritual spells, even just planning out their day.
Okay, see, that's what I find so interesting. It's not just about the, woo-woo stuff.
Right.
It's about connecting with nature's rhythms in a way that's actually really practical.
Totally.
But maybe let's start with something we're all familiar with, how the moon affects us here on Earth. Like, we all learned about the tides in school.
Right, the moon's
But this book, it suggests the moon's energy, it's got a way bigger role to play, especially for women.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Think about it. If the moon can move oceans with its gravity...
And we're mostly water, right?
Exactly. Humans, we're mostly water. So it makes sense that we'd be affected too. And this is where the connection to women's cycles comes in.
Okay, yeah. The book talks about this natural link between women's menstrual cycles and the lunar cycle. It's almost like with our modern lives, we've lost touch with that connection.
It's true. The book actually suggests that, way back when, women's cycles were more in sync with the moon.
Really?
Like, menstruation would often happen around the new moon.
Yeah.
But then comes modern life with, artificial light, 24/7 schedules. And it's like we've disrupted this whole natural rhythm.
That's really interesting. So is Crystal Moon suggesting that we try to get back in sync?
Yeah, she talks about a lot of benefits, feeling more balanced, stronger intuition, deeper connection to your body's natural rhythms. It's about tapping into this ancient wisdom that understood how everything's connected.
It really makes you wonder what else we could tap into if we just paid attention, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of paying attention, there's another key concept in Wicca we should probably touch on. The Wheel of the Year.
The Wheel of the Year, yeah, sounds pretty intense. Like some kind of cosmic calendar, right?
You could say that. Think of it like a map of time that Wiccans use to guide their whole practice.
Okay, break it down for me. How does this wheel thing actually work?
All right, so picture a wheel divided up into 8 parts.
8 parts.
These are 8 super important points throughout the year. Wiccans call them Sabbats. You got your 2 solstices, Yule in winter, shortest day,
Right.
and then Litha in summer, longest day of the year.
So those are like the extremes of light and darkness.
Exactly. And then you've got the equinoxes, Ostara for spring and Moanbon for autumn, when day and night are equal.
Okay.
These 4 together, we're talking your solar holidays.
Makes sense. So what about the other 4 sections of the wheel?
Those are the Earth holidays. They fall between the solstices and equinoxes. Imbolc, Beltane, Lammas, and Samhain. Each of these points on the wheel is like a different stage in this cycle of growth and harvest.
So it's a way of mapping out the whole year based on these natural cycles of light and growth.
You got it.
But where do the Wiccan deities fit into all of this? Because I know the god and goddess are like central figures in Wicca.
Oh, absolutely. They're like the driving force behind this whole Wheel of the Year thing.
Okay, tell me more about that. How do they connect to these cycles?
All right, so the god, he's often linked with the sun, represents that masculine energy of creation.
Makes sense.
He's born at Yule, gets stronger as the sun does, moving towards Litha, then he gradually declines, dies at Samhain.
Wow, so his whole life cycle is like built into the wheel.
Right.
And what about the goddess? What's her role in all this?
Just as important, often linked with the moon, representing feminine energy of creation. And here's where it gets really interesting. She's often shown in her triple aspect.
Ah, yes, the maiden mother crone.
Exactly.
That concept's always intrigued me. It's like the goddess has like multiple personalities, each one a different stage of a woman's life.
It's such a powerful metaphor, right? And each of the goddess's aspects is also connected to a particular phase of the moon.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me everything about these aspects and how they link to the moon.
All right, so let's start with the maiden. She's associated with the waxing moon.
Okay.
She's all about new beginnings, youthfulness, like untamed potential. Think springtime, bursting with life.
New moon, new beginnings. It all kind of clicks, doesn't it?
It does. And then you have the mother aspect.
Okay, so that's probably...
She represents the fullness of life, nurturing abundance, that peak feminine power. She's connected to the full moon when lunar energy is at its strongest.
Full moon, full power, nurturing energy of creation. That makes sense. But the crone, that one's always seemed a bit more, I don't know, mysterious? Maybe even a little intimidating?
Yeah, I can see why you'd say that. The crone is linked with the waning moon, so she's often connected with wisdom, the passage of time, death, and rebirth.
Heavy stuff.
She's not afraid of the shadows, though, because she gets it, you know? Endings are just as much a part of life as beginnings.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. It's not about decline, but about embracing the wisdom and experience that come with aging.
Exactly.
It makes me think, though, how does this whole triple goddess idea, her connection to the moon, how does that tie into Wiccan magic?
That's a great question, and it leads us perfectly into one of the most interesting parts of Wicca, moon magic.
Yes. The spells, the rituals, this is where it gets really interesting. And Crystal Moon, she definitely doesn't shy away from the magic.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? The moon is so central to Wiccan belief.
Right.
But it's important to remember that magic in Wicca, it's not about, pulling rabbits out of hats.
So not like stage magic.
Exactly. It's more about, like, tapping into and working with natural energies to make positive changes happen.
And the moon plays a huge role in that, right? Does the specific phase of the moon, does that change the type of magic that's practiced?
Absolutely. The book really focuses on two main points in the cycle for doing spell work: the new moon and the full moon.
Okay, so let's talk about the magic of those two moon phases.
All right, so picture this. The new moon, it's in darkness.
Yeah, like a blank slate.
Exactly. It's a blank slate, a void, but full of potential.
Yeah.
Perfect time for planting seeds of intention, new beginnings, fresh starts, attracting what you want.
New moon, new you. Makes sense. So new moon spells are all about setting those intentions, manifesting things you want in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, think about the full moon, all bright in the sky.
Right.
Its energy is all about amplifying, making things happen, releasing what's no longer serving you.
So if the new moon is about planting seeds, the full moon is about harvesting.
You got it. It's when you do spells to banish negative energy, amplify your intentions, really bring your desires into being.
It's wild how each phase has its own energy for magic. Can you give me some concrete spell examples from the book?
Sure. For the new moon, Crystal Moon talks about spells for attracting new jobs, calling it a partner, even stuff like creating healthy habits.
Okay, so these are spells that, like, a lot of people can relate to: finding love, career stuff, self-improvement. What about full moon magic? What does she recommend for that?
One that really stuck with me was a banishing ritual using a losing lottery ticket.
Wait, seriously, a losing lottery ticket?
You heard right. The idea is by focusing on that losing energy, you can actually help banish bad luck from other areas of your life.
That's amazing. All this time I've been throwing away potential spell components. What other full moon magic is in there?
She also talks about spells for getting more recognition and appreciation, whether in your work or personal life. And of course, there's stuff about enhancing creativity and intuition, which makes sense given how the moon is connected to our emotions and subconscious.
Wow, so many possibilities. But before we get too carried away with the spells and all that, you mentioned earlier about living in sync with the moon's cycles in our day-to-day lives.
Right.
And the book, it emphasizes that this is about way more than just like the spells and rituals, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Wicca Moon Magic is as much a guide to daily living as it is about, spellcraft. It wants you to really observe the moon's phases and align your activities with them.
Okay, that's what I'm really curious about. Give me some examples. How would someone actually incorporate the moon's energy into their everyday life?
Well, one example is gardening by the moon.
Gardening by the moon, what does that even mean?
It's super interesting. The book says to plant seeds or transplant during the waxing moon because the energy is building then, moving toward fullness and growth. Then you'd harvest during the waning moon when the energy is receding.
Wow, so even our gardens are in tune with these lunar cycles.
Right.
Are there any other examples of how people might sync their lives with the moon?
Oh yeah, tons. Some Wiccans believe if you build a fence during a waning moon, it'll last longer, since the wood won't warp as much with the receding energy.
That's wild. I would never have thought of that. It makes you wonder what other subtle ways the moon might be influencing us.
Doesn't it? And that's just the beginning.
This is already a lot to process. Before we go any further, though, I have another question. We've been talking about how the moon affects us, its cycles, the magic associated with it. But what about the other planets in our solar system? Do they play a role in Wicca, too?
That is a great question, and it takes us to a whole other level of Wiccan belief.
Okay, I am so ready to dive into that. Tell me everything.
Well, we can start with how each planet, it's like it has its own special energy, its own qualities.
Okay, so like how the different moon phases have different energies.
Exactly. Think of it like each planet has its own cosmic personality.
I like that. Okay, but how does that actually play into, actually practicing Wicca?
Well, it's all about harnessing those planetary energies, right? Like
Right.
to enhance your spells and rituals. Or even just to align yourself with a certain energy you might need in your daily life.
Okay, now you've got to give me some examples.
All right, let's take Mars, the red planet,
Like
right?
fiery.
Exactly. It's all about action, energy, courage, maybe even a little aggression when you need it.
So if I need like a boost of motivation, a kick in the pants to get things done, I'd want to tap into some of that Martian energy.
Exactly. Mars is like that get it done energy.
I could definitely use some of that.
Yeah.
What about Venus then? I'm guessing it's not as intense as Mars.
You got it. Venus is all about love, beauty, harmony, relationships, all that good stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. So if you were doing love spells or something to enhance your own attractiveness, Venus is the one you'd call on.
Precisely. It's like each planet has its own special ingredient that you can add to your intentions to make them even stronger.
Okay, this is fascinating. It's like having a cosmic toolkit or something. So we've got Mars for action, Venus for love. What about Mercury?
Mercury the messenger. It's all about communication, travel, intellect, thinking fast on your feet.
So if I have a big presentation or I need to really nail this exam coming up, maybe invoke a little Mercury magic.
Exactly. Negotiations, exams, even if you just want your flight to go smoothly, Mercury can help you there.
Okay, love it. This is getting really interesting. What about Jupiter? Now that sounds like a powerful planet.
Jupiter is often connected with expansion, abundance, good luck, prosperity.
Okay, Jupiter might be my new best friend.
Right.
So you'd use Jupiter for things like career success, financial abundance, all that.
Absolutely. Jupiter's all about growth, whatever you want more of in your life.
I can already picture it.
Yeah.
A nice Jupiter candle on my altar.
There you go.
Okay, but what about let's say the more challenging planets, like Saturn, for example?
Saturn.
I mean, it's got that whole ring system, which just seems intense.
Saturn definitely has a reputation, like the cosmic taskmaster.
Oh.
It's all about discipline, boundaries, responsibility, karma.
Yeah, not exactly the life of the party, huh? But I guess those Saturn qualities are important too.
Oh, for sure. Saturn's the one who teaches us about setting limits, sticking with it when things get tough, owning up to our mistakes.
So it's not that Saturn is bad, it's just like you got to know how to work with its energy.
Exactly. And sometimes we need that Saturn energy to build a solid base for ourselves.
That's a really good point. Okay, so we've covered most of the planets here. What about the ones way out there? Uranus, Neptune, those feel like wild cards.
They are fascinating. Uranus, that's the planet of breakthroughs, sudden changes.
Intense.
Right. Breaking free from anything that's holding you back, embracing the new.
So Uranus is like the planet of revolution.
Totally. Challenging the way things are, being open to the unexpected.
Sounds powerful, but maybe a little unpredictable. What about Neptune? It seems mysterious.
Neptune's a very mystical one. Dreams, intuition, spirituality, all the stuff going on in our subconscious.
So if I'm trying to connect with my intuition, understand my dreams better, I might want to work with Neptune's energy.
Exactly. It's about tapping into those hidden parts of ourselves, you know.
This is blowing my mind. It's like the planets add this whole other level of depth to magic and spell work. So say someone's listening and they want to start bringing these planetary energies into their practice. Where would they even begin?
Well, there are a few ways. A lot of people start by picking out herbs, crystals, even colors that match the planet they want to work with.
So like red for Mars because it's the red planet, or green for Venus.
Got it. Those colors are believed to really vibrate with the energies of each planet. You could also use symbols or pictures of the planet on your altar or when you're doing spells.
Like a feather for air, a seashell for water, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's all about finding what feels right to you, what clicks with the planet's energy for you personally.
I love how creative and personal it all is.
It is, right?
It's about finding those connections that really make the magic come alive for you.
Exactly. And speaking of creating a space for that magic, you mentioned altars earlier and how important they are in Wicca.
Oh, yes. Altars. I'm so curious about this part of it all.
It's really cool.
So tell me, what exactly is an altar and why is it so important to Wiccans? So tell me, what exactly is an altar and why is it so important to Wiccans?
Well, an altar, it's basically like a sacred space,
Mm.
a place where you can really focus on your spiritual practice.
Okay.
It's where you connect with the divine, set your intentions, maybe do rituals or spells, or just meditate and connect with yourself on a deeper level.
So it's like a little sanctuary, a focal point for all that spiritual energy.
Exactly. And it's not just a Wiccan thing either.
Oh, right. I've heard of altars in other traditions, too.
Yeah, you find them in all sorts of cultures and spiritual paths going way back. It's this universal idea of creating a special space to connect with something bigger than yourself.
That's beautiful. So how do you actually create an altar? Is there a right way to do it, or?
The best part is it's super personal. You can use whatever you want, a table, a shelf, even just a windowsill.
So it doesn't have to be anything fancy or elaborate?
Not at all. It's all about finding a spot that feels peaceful and inspiring to you, a place where you can go to connect with your spiritual side.
That makes sense. Find your spot, and then what?
Then comes the fun part, decorating.
Okay.
You can use anything that has personal meaning for you. Family heirlooms, crystals, stones, feathers, plants.
So it's all about finding things that, resonate with you, things that have energy and meaning for your practice.
Exactly. And you can change it up whenever you feel like it, add new things, take things away. Just follow your intuition.
I love that. So it's like this ever-evolving reflection of your own spiritual path. But are there any, must-have elements that every altar should have?
Some people like to include things that represent the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water.
Oh, okay. So like a bowl of salt for earth, incense for air, a candle for fire.
Got it. And then maybe a seashell or a bowl of water for water. These elements, they're like the building blocks of the universe.
Yeah.
So having them on your altar can help you connect with those really primal energies.
That makes a lot of sense. So you create your altar, and then what? How do you actually use it? Is it an everyday thing?
It's really up to you. Some folks use theirs every day for meditation, maybe prayer. Others, they use it for specific spells or rituals.
So no right or wrong way to interact with it, just what feels right for you in your practice.
Exactly. Most important thing is to treat it with respect,
Mhm.
It's a sacred space.
Totally. So how do you keep that space sacred? Do you have to, cleanse it or anything?
That's a great question. And yeah, cleansing your altar is a good habit to get into. It helps clear away any stagnant energy and keeps the vibe high.
I am all about clearing out stagnant energy. But how do you actually do that with an altar?
There are tons of ways. You could use incense, sound like a bell, or a singing bowl. Even just your own intention is super powerful.
No. So with the spells, it all comes back to intention.
Exactly. Just picture this bright, cleansing light all around your altar. It's crazy how effective that can be.
I like that. Simple but powerful. So you cleanse it, set your intentions, you interact with it in a way that feels right. Is there anything else to keep that magical energy going?
It's really about staying connected to your altar and your practice.
Hmm.
Spend time there regularly, even just for a few minutes a day. Light a candle, meditate, write in your journal, or just be present with the things you put there.
That sounds so grounding. Just hitting the reset button for your energy.
Exactly. And as you keep working with your altar, you'll find it becomes a powerful tool for going deeper spiritually and manifesting your intentions.
This is all so fascinating, but I have to ask, with all this talk about magic, working with energy, is there an ethical side to it all? Rules that Wiccans follow?
100%. Ethics are huge in Wicca. There's this guiding principle called the Wiccan Rede.
The Wiccan Rede. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What is that?
A lot of people sum it up as harm none, do what you will.
Harm none, do what you will. So it's about personal freedom, but with a sense of responsibility, too.
Exactly. You're free to do your thing, but you have to think about the consequences.
Mm.
And we have a duty to use our power for good, not to cause harm.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not about manipulating the universe to get whatever you want. It's more about working within natural laws, ethical principles.
Exactly. And there's actually another concept connected to that, the threefold law.
The threefold law. All right, tell me more.
Basically, it says that whatever energy you put out into the world, good or bad, it comes back to you 3 times stronger.
Whoa, like cosmic karma.
You could say that. It's a reminder to really be aware of our thoughts, words, actions. Because they have an impact,
Yeah.
way beyond just ourselves.
So it's not even just about avoiding harm. It's about actively putting good out there.
Exactly. Approach magic with respect, responsibility, and that deep understanding that we're all connected.
That's really beautiful. It's so much bigger than just, casting spells to get what you want. It's about living in line with something bigger than yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's what makes Wicca such a rich, rewarding path.
Crystal Moon's book has been this amazing window into this whole world. I feel like I've learned so much, but I'm also like, man, I'm just getting started. Where should someone even go if they want to learn more, really dive deeper into Wicca and moon magic?
Well, you're in luck. There are so many resources out there these days. Local bookstores, metaphysical shops, they usually have whole sections on Wicca and paganism. You can find books, candles, herbs, all sorts of cool stuff.
It's amazing how much more accessible it all is.
It really is. And of course, the internet is a gold mine. Websites, blogs, podcasts, even online communities, there's a whole world out there.
So exciting, like opening this door to a whole new way of seeing the world, experiencing it.
Exactly. And here's the most important thing. Trust your gut. Read what resonates with you. Try different practices and see what feels right in your heart.
That is such great advice. It's about finding your path, your way of connecting with the magic.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has been truly eye-opening. I've learned so much about Wicca, moon magic, all of it. And it's got me really thinking about these natural rhythms and how to bring them into my own life.
It's been such a pleasure sharing this journey with you.
And a huge thank you to Crystal Moon for her incredible book, Wicca Moon Magic. It's been the perfect guide for this whole exploration.
I second that. It's a wonderful place to start for anyone who wants to dip their toes into the magic of Wicca.
Well, listeners, I don't know about you, but I am feeling inspired. Tonight, I'm looking up at the moon, maybe starting to plan out my own altar. Who knows what magic awaits? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.